Welcome
to Poetry Garden's video review. Now we came across this idea accidentally in an attempt to not write a full-length review of Cries and Whispers, which is our fault for choosing Cries and Whispers as our first film review.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very, very dense film, and there's a lot to it, and we are capable of writing, coherent review of it, or
we have
whatever.
A draft.
We have a draft.
We have a draft. Proof.
Any of you who doubt,
doubters,
but we just kind of thought it might be fun to do it this way, to kind of just talk about it, verbalize it instead of trying to put it down in some sort of structured, written format. We may and will do that in the future. We will write. I don't want to use the word reviews because we're not necessarily. Well, we're kind of.
It's not really a review. It's more a discussion of. It's a discussion of the film.
Yeah, discussion of what we felt and saw and all those things. But for some of them, it might be just fun to do it like this and to kind of have you guys be able to just see us talk, see me talk with my hands a lot and whatever.
Yes. He's a hand talker.
I'm a hand talker.
Yeah. You got gorgeous hands, though.
I do have gorgeous
hands.
I don't know if you can see that from here. Please,
hand model.
Too much.
Hand model.
It's a tease.
Yeah.
Tease. Work it in. I want to do it all.
He's beating me by a couple strips.
He's beating me by a couple strips.
Anyway, so yes. And yeah, it's also fun to just make these videos. We, for a second there, had a podcast, which we never really aired or featured, but it was there. It existed. We have the recordings. But it's always just fun to kind of just talk about this and do this and, have that discussion. And if you're watching this and you also want to have that discussion, please, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
As long as they're good thoughts.
Yeah. Maybe stupid. No dumb stuff. No. But really, I mean, I'm thinking about this is kind of inspired by what we would do. We would watch this, we would watch a film. We have Hulu, so thank you, Hulu, for putting the entire Criterion Collection on there. And I've been a fan of the Criterion Collection for a number of years now, and they were kind of my catalyst into Bergman, into filmmaking, into art cinema, and kind of inspired me to pursue my love of filmmaking and my own attempts to be a cineast and sort of make film and just fall in love with it and appreciate it. So they have all the Criterion films on there, so what we would do is we'd watch them and kind of just have these impromptu discussions and just talk about what we were feeling, what we saw, and stuff like that. So I feel like this is a way to kind of capture that a little bit more organically than something necessarily that's written down and shaped and molded into something that's not to say coherent, but that's
a bit too academic.
Yeah, very academic.
We're not trying to deconstruct anything that we do. I mean, the whole blog is really just. I mean, he is, and then you'll come to know that and appreciate it. But, it's really just kind of discussing film in order to appreciate it more. And not just film, but, if you've gone to our blog, you'll see that we also write poetry. We post songs of the week. We, we'll discuss literature and art here soon. It's kind of just a way to tap into that creative, expressive side of ourselves, which we don't often get the chance to do. Especially, when... And maybe this is the case for you. You work a 9-to-5 job, or you have a job, and it's not really the job that you want or job that allows you to express yourself creatively. If you're a writer or a filmmaker or a photographer, but it's something that you have to do. So this is that outlet for that.
Yeah, I kind of think back to, and this is a kind of a long introduction maybe into our first video, but the hell with it. Whatever, we can do whatever we want. And if you don't like it, too bad. I'm just kidding. Please don't. Please like it.
Please like it. Like us on Instagram.
Like us on.
We're not on Instagram.
We're not, but it's okay.
We will be. Yeah, we post nude photos of ourselves. I just said nudies.
Nudies.
Like a grandma.
Like a grandma. Yeah. But that's one of our favorite things about art appreciation, I guess, or these things, or I think even to kind of, again, it's going back to the cinema. Is like what some of my favorite filmmakers, like the French New Wave and stuff like that, they would watch a film and there was just that open dialogue and discussion, and that's kind of what Poetry Garden is. It's not, it's a place we kind of put up our stuff, our expression, our ways of being creative, and kind of hopefully inspire and other people to do the same and to kind of facilitate that in some way, and to find their own voice. And it's awesome. You don't have to like what we say or agree with it or any of that kind of. It's not about that. There's no. And for me, like, there's no right and wrong in art. There's just opinion, and I think a healthy discussion of opinion can kind of either open your eyes to certain things you might not have been aware of before, or help you solidify why you feel how you feel. But I think it's all healthy and done when it's done positively and not with some sort of negative connotation or in a sense of superiority or pretension.
Yeah, I mean, and it's ultimately it's art, and art is so beautiful, and every aspect of it is so beautiful. The creative aspect, the art form of it, the fact that you're just doing it is incredible. So to call something good or bad or right or wrong, it takes away from that beauty. It makes it more human.
And you put a label on it, and it's sort of hard to, because you can't quantify those things. It's not like a math equation or like a sport, a game of sport. There's no score to go by. Like, oh, this movie, beat this movie because it had points. Like, there's no way of doing that. Just like you can't, I
mean, granted, that said, and again, this just goes back to our opinion. There will be movies that I think are terrible.
Yeah.
Just like there will be songs I think are terrible. Just like there will be books that I think are terrible. Some things that I write are terrible, but that's okay. That's all part of it. And as long as you recognize that, and I'm sure that if you're watching this or listening to this, you do recognize that, hopefully, and you're not trying to one up someone or prove yourself, or you're doing it solely because you want to.
Yeah, passion.
Mm-hmm. As we're doing this because we want to, and because it was a fun thing that we came up with a couple of weeks ago, and
and it's kind of given us an outlet to express ourselves and to connect with the things that we truly enjoy. So that's this. And that's what this is. So thank you for sitting through 7+ minutes of us introducing. But I think that was necessary to give a little background on it. And we're chatty. We like to talk. So
we like to talk.
Thus, you could see why maybe writing something down would be kind of it would have been 45 pages of just.
Yeah, it's also a lot of us just talking throughout the entire writing process.
Yeah. So.
But a little bit about who we are. I'm Kiana.
And I thought I was Kiana. So, okay. I'm Jason.
And we just met each other on the street one day, and we decided, hey, let's have a blog together. And then he kind of moved in, grudgingly.
Squatting.
Yeah, squatting. Squatters' rights. Yeah, you got rights, so can't quite kick you out yet. But this is our blog that we put together. Again, this is a video review that we have together. And then
it begins. So
it begins.
Let the titles fade in and review and all sorts of.
Yeah.
We don't have.
We'll do the graphics later.
Or budget for any of that. So it's really.
I mean,
pretty basic.
Look at the lighting.
We're sitting behind a white wall, which is usually a no-no in like most of these things. But
really?
Yeah.
Maybe we could put like a poster, like Poetry Garden.
Poetry Garden.
It could be official.
We could get a green screen, and we could be anywhere.
Oh yeah, then we could be in the forest, or the beach.
Or the woods. These are things we're thinking this out loud. You're part of the creative process here.
Yeah, so if you have ideas,
please
send them over. We can't guarantee we'll read them or even listen to them, but it's good to have ideas. I'll do the filtering. I will. So let's get into Cries and Whispers, which is a very fun blockbuster film.
It's a
one that you watch with the family, take the kids.
Romantic comedies, I think. Is what they call it.
Yeah, it's a rom-com, definitely. I think Jennifer Aniston's in there. I'm not too sure.
Yes.
Yeah, background character, though.
Yeah, she was an extra. It was one of her first starts, 1972 in Sweden.
So if you're not familiar with the film, it is a film by Ingmar Bergman, released in 1972. Tell us a bit about who Ingmar Bergman is. Yeah, like that. That was my newscaster.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit.
And back to you, Jason.
Well, thank you, Kiana. Ingmar Bergman, where to begin? And I'll try to not gush like a schoolboy. Ingmar Bergman is probably one of my favorite.
I always think of the Arrested Development with Joe.
Oh,
Look at us crying like a couple of schoolgirls.
Wow, way to just break that.
Right.
No.
Trying to create a mood.
Trying to create a mood. I'm trying to lure them in with my Ingmar Bergman is probably one of my biggest inspirations as far as film go. I don't think. I mean, he is clearly my biggest inspiration and one of my people that I look up to and aspire to in a sense. As far as filmmaking goes, I just really, really connected with his cinema when I first discovered it. And a little background on him, obviously he was a Swedish filmmaker. I forget exactly when he started making film. Probably, I think it was one of his first films, really screenwriting jobs, was in the mid to late 50s. And he just kind of worked his way up from there. He's most known for like The Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberries, Virgin Spring, Cries and Whispers, Persona. I could just kind of list off so many more that. But if you've never heard of him, I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out his films. Start with start wherever you want to start. But he is very much an I don't want to use the term like art director, but he definitely film was a channel for him to express himself and his ideas and musings on life and God or God's absence. He kind of comes from a kind of an atheist background, not believing. So kind of big themes for him were death and the absence of God and human beings and class and how we treat each other. So as you can tell, it's pretty lighthearted stuff. But he is a titan in the film community and is probably one of the bigger names in cinema. I mean, he's up there with, though he doesn't get mentioned as much, especially in this country, probably amongst a certain age range. But those who know, I think, in cinema, he's up there with like, he's a staple, like a Hitchcock or John Ford or any of those guys. He's as much, if not more, he'd be on the Mount Rushmore of filmmaking. If you're putting it together. And he died probably passed in 2007. So he had a long life, long illustrious career, made about over 50 films. He's just I trying to not just overdo it and just kind of keep it simple. But he's an amazing filmmaker who very much kind of loved writing. He was very much a poet and a writer. So he wrote, and he had a history of he wrote off stage plays and was a theater director. So he had a theater background. So a lot of his films, especially Cries and Whispers, which we're going to get into here, it's kind of one of his what he called chamber dramas. So it's kind of just takes place in one setting, almost kind of like a certain stage plays, and it's kind of just based on it's very heavy dialogue driven and kind of about emotions and characters more than kind of like set pieces and heavy amounts of editing and different things that you might be used to if you're watching, especially like Western cinema. Swedish cinema is very, very kind of emotive and lyrical. Well, this film in particular is very lyrical as far as its way it's composed and its mise en scène and things like that.
Color palette plays a big part in this film.
Yes, absolutely.
The writing's incredible.
Yeah.
I've just recently started watching films a couple of years ago when Jason and I met. So I don't really have the film background that Jason has or the knowledge and experience. But as someone who likes to read and someone who loves literature and someone who really appreciates writing when it's done well, he's an incredible writer. And the emotions he's able to bring out. I mean, when we first watched Cries and Whispers, when we finished the film and didn't say anything, but I just started crying because it was just so very much painful. And especially if you, in your own personal life, deal with similar things or have been exposed to similar things, such as family and, fears of death, or not fear of death, but just kind of coming to terms with the fact that we all die, but not every death is just or equal, or not just the same way that every life lived isn't just. So it's difficult to see that, but it's also comforting to know that those themes existed for other people and those feelings exist, and other people, such as Ingmar Bergman, a stranger, someone I've never even met, someone who didn't even live in the same country I was, born in, has had those very same thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of been harping on this, but that's the best part about art, is that you get to connect with people that you don't know, that you've never even met. Things, connect with them on a level that's much more personal than just what kind of music you like, or what kind of food you like eating, but it's just what you're feeling inside, and your biggest fears and your biggest insecurities, and so if you're new to film as well, or if you've never heard of him, please seek him out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's to piggyback on that, like, it's just kind of the shared human experience, regardless
Mm-hmm.
of, I mean, he was born decades before we were even a thought, and like you said, miles away, but what drew me to him, and he's been my favorite filmmaker and will be for, as long as I live, is just because of that, because you relate, and I felt like, not even just relating, but like there's such a human quality. He's just so honest with his feelings and his fears and insecurities, or what he's thinking, that it's hard not to connect with. So Cries and Whispers, again, was filmed in 1972. It's Swedish, and he did that with his longtime cinematographer, his kind of other half, Sven Nykvist, who I think is the greatest cinematographer of all time, and there's some other people who have a lot more credentials than I do, and I've been in the business a long time, who would champion that sentiment as well. The things he did with lighting and just technical stuff, and I won't get into like too much of that to try to keep it a little bit lighter, not too playful, too cinegeeky, but his use of soft lighting and composition and just is second to none. So, and it's quickly, like, this is, one of the first and only films, and I honestly, Bergman didn't care about this, and I don't think this is I only mention this as, like, kind of a odd note that, like, this was the only film to ever be nominated for Best Picture, and he was nominated for Best Director for an Oscar that was not filmed in English. And being Bergman, being who he is, he never showed up. He didn't want the Oscar. He didn't, it didn't win, but it's so, someone could be that vehemently against something, and they'd still be like, this movie's so great, we have to nominate you, even though I know you don't want us to, or you don't really think too highly of our institution. But it centers on three sisters, four women in general, three of them sisters, one of them a housekeeper in the family home, Agnes, played by the brilliant Harriet Andersson, who was an early muse for Bergman in his early films, plays Agnes, and she's dying of what we can assume is cancer. It's not necessarily important what disease is, but she is dying a pretty horrible, slow, painful death. And her two other sisters, Corinne and Maria, played by Liv Ullmann, who is a staple in Bergman films, and the actress who plays Corinne, I am shamefully blanking on right now. Ingrid Thulman, thank you. Fantastic. They all kind of are at the family home. They're taking care of their sister, Agnes, as she...
taking care of is a
right
loose term.
Loose term. We'll definitely delve into that. As she kind of passes away. And, as I said, he's more interested in, like, emotions and stuff, not necessarily structure or linear plot or anything like that. So it's kind of just the synopsis. It's just that, and kind of, and then from there, it's all these other things that are going on that we'll get into as far as what we read into it. I watched it with her. We watched it twice together, but before that, I'd seen it once or twice before, so I've seen it roughly about four or five times. And it every time you watch it, it's kind of like peeling back the layers of something and getting deeper, finer understanding. It's definitely not something you can watch once, I think, and walk away completely even knowing what you feel about it.
I mean, we had originally planned to film this after my first viewing, but that first viewing took place, and it's so emotionally overwhelming and, in a sense, mentally exhausting, because you're trying to process all of these themes that are overlapping each other and kind of layer each other and are umbrellaed under this major theme of kind of just exploring the human soul and delving into what it's like to be human.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not pretty, actually. Well, I mean, it can be, and it's not to say that this film is, nihilist or misanthropic or that, Bergman thinks that all human beings are just terrible, cold, emotionless creatures. But it's very beautiful and ends on a very beautiful note. And we don't want to spoil it, but it is very important to the actual film itself, which we will discuss. But the themes that we noted, at least, were, familial relationships and how humans interact with each other, class. It's very much kind of takes a fly on the walls, like, perspective of, being rich and how those people kind of grow up and the values that they hold dear and the way that they treat others, death, faith.
It's whatever, Yeah. I mean, there's so much. I mean, it's the each sister kind of represents. I don't know if represents the right word, but like expresses different kind of characteristics of kind of, I think, that could make up a person, and Corinne is kind of this more kind of cold, detached. She has like a wall built around her, like we said, like a shield to her. Whereas Maria, the beautiful one, if you will, Liv Ullmann's character, is this sort of almost, it's just a child. She's very vapid in the sense of her pleasures are very much of facile, the surface, the wanting desired, and not being able to fully address or even, I think, maybe even process what's happening with Agnes. She's too kind of centered on herself, and there's a little side bit with like her and Erland Josephson, who plays the doctor, another staple in Bergman films. If you've seen any Bergman films, you'll notice all of these characters are his. He works with the same actors a lot, just because he builds up a rapport with them and a trust. Her desires are very selfish and very much of her, and what she wants and what she needs. So she kind of addresses or deals with, I think, the situation with Agnes in very much a way like how it affects her, how it makes her feel, what it says about her, but Anna, the housekeeper, is a character that is kind of, I think, the purest of the characters. She's not family to Agnes necessarily, but she loves her more honestly and truly and deeply than any of the
than her
sisters do. And I think for me that kind of rings to like the fact of family is not necessarily, has nothing to do with lineage or biological things, and more to do with honest love and selflessness.
And I mean, in a sense, she becomes family in a way that's not biological or, by blood. And that we discussed this earlier, kind of their relationship, how, Agnes grew up always wanting or seeking out affection from her mother and not receiving it, and in turn seeing that affection being poured on Maria, because Maria and her mother were so similar. And so just seeking it out and finally finding it in Anna, whose daughter had passed away. I assume it's because of an illness.
Mm-hmm.
So them finding each other and kind of filling in those holes in their lives, holes that had not been filled in by death or just lack of affection, lack of care. And so it's interesting to see their relationship. There's a scene, and we were discussing this earlier, how some people interpret it as it being like a lesbian love scene or something, but it's so personal and so very much and so beautiful in a way, because Anna holds Agnes as she's crying out for help, and undoes her shirt and lets Agnes rest her head on her bare skin, and it's everything you'd expect a mother to do to her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much kind of like breastfeeding without the breastfeeding.
Yeah.
There's no suckling.
No. It's done in a sense to. Agnes is cold in this sense, and she gives her body warmth, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's a powerful scene. It's one of many powerful scenes in the film, and it again speaks to very much that Agnes needed her, and she was there, and Anne is there whenever she needs her, and selflessly. Doesn't ask for anything in return, doesn't need anything in return, but
yeah,
in a sense, all she needs is to be able to help her in whatever way she can.
And while Agnes is, passing, or while she's slowly dying, there are other conflicts that take place, internal and external conflicts. Internally, Corinne deals with depression and anger and
Trust.
Maria is very much dealing with her own issues, again, with not being loved, not being wanted, being in this situation that she finds so ugly in a sense. Kind of like, it's like, and I can only say this and use a personal example. It's like when you're a child and you hear someone has died, and it's not someone in your immediate family, it's like a second uncle twice removed. And you still feel something for that person because you know that you should, because they're in your family and they're your uncle, and there are so many emotional connotations associated with that word. But it's hard to process the fact that someone that you know has just died when you've never really interacted with them. So that's kind of Maria's relationship with Agnes.
It's like a detachment.
Yeah. She can't process that this is her sister who was passing, because she never really built that relationship with her sister.
Yeah.
I can't help it. It's so good.
No, I think that's a really, really great point, and that's very evident. And there's so much of that. So this is why you could see it would be kind of hard. It's even hard. I'm having trouble even talking. About it in terms that are concrete. So you could see how writing about it would be very hard. And I commend anyone, and I've read some reviews about this film, so I commend those people, and I guess that's what they went to school for. So it makes sense that like Kent Jones or something like that would be able to, who's a great American film critic, would be able to talk about it. But some other things I think that are noteworthy about it again are like the color palette that we've talked about, his use of red, which he believed to be the inside of the human soul, and soul being more used in a more poetic sense than a literal sense, being, again, that Bergman didn't really believe that we had souls, but when creating art, it's, again, it's a poetic touch, and it's very, very striking, and I had never seen, not that I've seen every film ever made, but I consumed a lot of cinema, and it was one of the first films I ever saw when I first saw it that ever did fades to red. That was just like you weren't supposed to do that. They didn't make, you always do fade to black to kind of cleanse the palette as you transition from one edit to another and stuff like that. And there's other reasons you would do it. But fades to red were very powerful. Bergman is a genius in his use of close-ups.
It's a crimson red.
Yeah, it's a
red that when you see it, you think of blood. And it's not that's used in a morbid sense, because, like we discussed before, the red very much shifts. The emotion behind the red shifts from when, Maria's trying to seduce the family doctor and is wearing a red dress, and that denotes passion and desire, to when Agnes is dying, and it is very much the color of death.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want to say. Because the red is very important.
It is. No, it's.
Yeah.
The house is red. Red was very, very prominent. Also, his use of clocks, that's something Bergman's very interested in, and I'm going to say obsessed with, but just the passing of time. But yeah, you'll notice his use of close-ups and kind of his mise en scène again, meaning like his staging of certain scenes, where he's more interested in just letting it happen, and they'll either dolly in, or they'll do some rack focus to kind of, instead of an edit, to kind of not break up the rhythm of the scene and kind of let the acting kind of take center stage, which he does a lot in his films. And it also kind of adds to the kind of unflinching look at this scenario, and it becomes very, very much and again, also being a chamber drama, not leaving again that scene, becomes very claustrophobic, but in a good way, and in a way that makes you're in that house with those people going through those things, and even at times, from what I understand or how I interpreted it, you're taking trips into their psyche and going into the past, and whether it be with Maria and her past transgressions with that doctor, and how that affected her husband, or Corinne and her interaction with her husband, which can be very shocking, and in its sort of destructive way, I guess.
I mean, she mutilates herself.
She mutilates herself in a way that's very.
It's supposed to be like a slap in the face to her husband.
Yeah.
And it very much is a slap in his face. But it's very disturbing.
Yeah, it is disturbing. So, I mean, there's those, and then you take a trip through kind of, I think, Anna's psyche or understanding, or no.
I'm so sorry. That tea gets me so tired.
The after dinner tea.
Yeah.
It yeah. So I mean, there's that. So it's he's more interested in what's happening in the human consciousness and the human psyche. So there's lots of close-ups, lots of just lingering on certain things that might seem trivial in other movies or in other films that you wouldn't necessarily spend time watching someone smell a flower or kind of write in their journal, but all these things are become elevated and potent, and makes you kind of understand and contemplate those things, and what they mean, and how our memories sort of curate this experience that we have now. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. We could spend another 30 minutes talking about the film and just not even begin to touch upon a tenth of what it has in it. But
no,
for me, it has been. I had an email that used Cries and Whispers, and no one understood. No one understood what the fuck I was talking about.
Yeah, we laughed at him.
But it's been one of my favorite films of all time. And now getting to share it with you, and having watched it twice with you now, it's kind of just solidified that it's one of the greatest cinematic experiences I've ever had.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved it. It's absolutely. I couldn't recommend it highly enough.
I mean, before you watch it, I do recommend that you emotionally and mentally brace yourself, because it is it is very much taking a trip into someone else's life, but it also very much affects your own life. And it's hard to not, again, deal with these very universal themes and not think about yourself and your own experiences, and maybe your own past transgressions and your own family and your own mortality. So do take that into mind. It's not a first date kind of movie.
No, it's not. It's not like just throw it on because you want to watch something necessarily. Like she said, you kind of have to. And that's. I mean, it sounds like we're like, oh yeah, you're just like it. I mean, if you're doing it right, or if you're a thinking, breathing, feeling, conscious human being, it'll definitely kind of affect you and kind of be kind of very heavy. I once equated it to like having your head held underwater up until that moment where you're just about to black out from lack of oxygen, and then your head is pulled up and you get to take this big deep breath. It's that might be a very dramatic way of describing it, but it's very, very, it's beautiful in its bleakness and its darkness. And I know from his films, yeah, like she said, it's not a nihilistic film. It's not like he hates everyone or thinks that the world is black, but it's when you look at those things, it makes you understand and appreciate the beauty more, and that's very evident in this film, I think. So,
especially in regards to how he views class. Again, I won't give away the end, but in the end, Anna says something that's very poetic and very much grounding, because while you're in this manor, that's this beautiful manor, and you're surrounded by all of this all of these luxurious items and all this elegance in a sense, but it's hard to remember that life is very, very simple, and that really what's important is that you have love in your heart and you love the people that you're around, and that you're pure of heart, and and that you're caring and compassionate, and I think that's even good to talk about in today's day and age.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't get on my old man rant, but today's day and age, it's very much a person is based on what they've achieved versus how they treat others. And so it's nice to kind of just take a step back from all of that and to kind of remove yourself from the situation and reevaluate what's important to you. What values do you hold dear?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we could talk for another hour and barely.
Yeah, is there like a time limit to how long these things should be? Or?
I don't know. It's been about 35 minutes. If you're still watching this, kudos to you. We're going to send you a coupon in the mail.
Yes, Beyond Meat.
Beyond Meat.
We just got it.
You
so
just did. That's awesome.
Send it to you.
No, this was just, we felt like kind of a more organic, fun way to kind of talk about this. And we rambled, we digressed, we did all that stuff. But that's kind of part of discussion, part of, this, part of who we are. So thank you for watching this. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't,
yeah, and
it's okay too.
I know that we barely scraped the surface of this film, but once you see it, you'll understand how very complex it is. It's difficult to discuss in full in 35 minutes.
Exactly.
I mean, we've tried writing that draft. We've had that draft written for weeks.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it's It just felt right. Again, like it's kind of what we originally kind of did anyway. So just like turning a camera on and recording what we would normally do anyway. So
yeah,
this one happened to be a little bit longer and a little bit more kind of all-encompassing and kind of, like you said, rambling in a sense maybe or something. But it is what it is, and it's just kind of, it was fun, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Tune in next week. We're going to talk about Garfield the movie, so it might be a little bit briefer. That'll probably be about a 5-minute video.
Maybe, or maybe it's 20 minutes of
maybe
how great the movie is.
If anyone who's out there who's seen Garfield the movie, it's dense.
It is.
There's a lot going on there. It says a lot about.
I couldn't even process it upon the first viewing.
No.
I was like, I need
even
to
more
see
so
this again.
This. Yeah, exactly.
But tune in. Next week. I can't say when. We'll watch our next film tomorrow, and then probably just shoot a video tomorrow and then publish it, post it,
publish it.
Yeah, post it, publish it, print it.
Something.
Fuck it. I don't know.
Words. Whoa. Can you say that?
Can you say that on Movie Press?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because the internet, it's hard to tell. Not enough people are cursing on the internet.
No.
Yeah.
It's like the wild, wild west.
Yeah, so tune in next week. We'll discuss our next film. I can't tell you what that is yet because we don't know what it is yet. What should our next film be?
We will. You will find out when you tune in because we don't even really know right now. Actually, we kind of just pick it. We scroll through the Criterion and kind of. This one I definitely wanted to show her. This is something I've been wanting to show you for a while, but don't have anything in mind right now, so it'll be something. It'll be a surprise to you and to us. So.
Yes. So thanks for tuning in to Poetry Garden's video discussion. We'll also do some books here soon, so make sure that you tune into that.
Yeah.
And have a good day.
Have a good day. Enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy. Live life.
Live life passionately.
Yes. You only live once. The wise man once said.
He did.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yes. Should we just stop there? I could just keep on going.
Thank you.